Yes, sir.
We have seen through years of scientific evidence that vaccines work.
The 2023 proposal.
We also intend to leave a legacy of transparency and accountability as a standard for the future. Thank His Excellency, President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR.
In June 2019, 360 lawmakers were inaugurated into the House of Representatives in Nigeria, marking the beginning of the 9th National Assembly. Their mandate was to make laws and policies that would improve the lives of Nigerians, represent their constituencies, and generally move the country forward.
Solemnly affirm.
Section 87 provides for indirect or direct primary.
Made up of representatives from all parts of the country, the 9th House has more political parties than the previous House. Their diversity is a reflection of the Nigerian people they represent. Their first task upon resuming in the National Assembly was to elect a Speaker.
Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila. (281 votes).
For the first time, with an unprecedented margin, the Speaker was elected. Representative Femi Gbajabiamila scored a total of 281 votes to beat his rival, Representative Umar Bago, who scored 76 votes, to emerge victorious.
Good afternoon, honorable colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Femi Gbajabiamila, the Speaker, House of Representatives, Federal Republic of Nigeria. It is my honor and pleasure to address you today as the duly elected Speaker of the 9th House of Representatives. Whatever political party each one of us may belong, we must be conscious of the fact that Nigerians are truly desirous of good governance and are looking to us to be the agents that will, through meaningful legislation, combat security, poverty, corruption, and other problems and contradictions that have held our country back and stunted our development. It is this message of unity and coming together that informed the theme of our campaign, Nation Building, a Joint Task. We have decided to carry this theme into the operations of the 9th Assembly. As you can see, the logo, which embodies all parties represented in the House, will be displayed permanently behind the Speaker's chair for all to see, and as a constant reminder of what this assembly is all about.
Well, the issue of, or the mantra joint task, nation building is a joint task, that's what it means, was informed by my experience in politics, particularly legislative work, and even outside of legislative work, my experience in politics and understanding that people take partisanship, it will be beyond what it should be, and people oppose for the sake of opposing. People sometimes do not see, and I'm not absolving myself, I was in opposition at one time. People do not see nation building as something that belongs to everybody. And so I felt it was important that we began to look at partisan politics differently. Yes, we will play partisan. We will affiliate with our parties and oppose, but we will not oppose, or we should not oppose for the sake of opposition. We should have one common thing, and that is to move the country forward. And that's why I felt it should be a joint task, particularly in a country like Nigeria, where you have a potpourri of of different tribes, different parties, different religions, very heterogeneous society. And if we're all going to fall to our various tribes and ethnicity or religion, then the country's not going to move forward. And so I wanted a situation where we would forget about our party sometimes, forget about where we're from sometimes, forget about our religion, and look at the common good for the country. And so that's where I came up with nation building being a joint task. And I think it has worked, mainly in the House of Representatives. It has worked. We still played our politics based on parties, but we've subdued. Many have dropped their partisan hearts at various times for the common good of the country.
The new House set out to match its words with action. Within a short time, precisely on 25th July 2019, the chairmen of various standing committees of the House were appointed, and in October of the same year, the House published its legislative agenda, which is titled Our Contract with Nigerians.
There are some commendable initiatives carried out by the Ninth Assembly, namely the ability of the Assembly to have a legislative agenda that roll out the framework on how the House of Representatives in particular is going to operate in the next 4 years, starting from 2019.
When we came in the Ninth Assembly, of course, ab initio, there was never a time the assemblies before could pass a budget year before the year ends to enable the executive to, of course, go ahead to implement the budget. We took that decision, and of course our colleagues were very resolute, very committed, and very supportive.
The laying of the budget proposal by Mr. President before the legislature for consideration and approval. When just over a year ago we gathered in this chamber to receive the budget proposal and begin the appropriation process, we made specific commitments to the Nigerian people. We promised that we would pass the budget promptly, free of the rancor that had bedeviled the process in times past, and we delivered on that promise. I do not doubt that we will exhibit the same commitment to nation building and deliver a good budget on time.
With respect to the milestone that this particular assembly reached, first is to say the maintenance of the entire budget cycle, where budget or the appropriation bill is presented by the executive sometimes between October, November, December, as the case may be. We've seen a regularity of that. And in previous National Assemblies, it's always been a challenge. And so this particular assembly was tried to maintain that calendar. So indeed, it's a milestone.
Since the 9th House of Representatives was inaugurated, lawmakers have tackled a range of issues that are important to Nigerians, from security to education to healthcare. Lawmakers have been working to find solutions to the country's most pressing challenges. They have passed key legislation that had been pending in the Parliament for years. One such bill was the Petroleum Industry Bill, which had spent almost 2 decades in the Parliament. Another key legislation was the Deep Offshore and Inland Basin Production Sharing Contract Act, which amended the 1993 Act and ensured that Nigeria received a greater share of the revenue from offshore oil fields. Others include the Companies and Allied Matters Act, the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, and the Police Act Amendment Bill.
And the big question is, do they pass all these legislations? Those legislations have been passed, although the constitutional review is yet to be concluded. They are waiting on the states, but they met those promises. Of course, these are early days of the implementation, We've seen how the Electoral Act is transforming the electoral process. We are waiting to see the conclusion of the constitutional review process, but the executive has started implementing the PIA, first with the unbundling of the NNPC, and then other sort of actions that have been taken.
In terms of bills passed, in terms of interventions of the hours of so many issues, in terms of motions, in terms of cordiality, among the people, the members, I think it's traceable to the evolution, to the emergence, to that collegiality between the various members. So, okay, we have accepted you. This is a leader that we all look up to. This is somebody that is more experienced, knowledgeable. This is someone that is very diligent, proficient, that knows and knows how to even accommodate other opinion. I think that is just, to me, is the key thing, and that tend to give the Ninth Assembly, Ninth House of Rep, this kind of leeway going forward.
One of the key areas of focus for the House of Representatives has been security. The lawmakers considered a lot of bills and motions on the issue. The House also convened a special summit on national security in 2021, which was well attended.
When the activities of bandits, insurgents, and criminals of every stripe impede our efforts at progress and prosperity, we must confront the realization that our previous and current approaches to addressing the challenges of insecurity have not yielded desired results.
We also prioritize security because if there's no security, there's no development. So from the top of my head, I think we have 50 bills intervention in the security ecosystem. We also had over 100 motions as well, because there was a difficult time in Nigeria. You had IPOB issues, you had kidnapping, you had climate change issue that exacerbated the herdsmen, farmers, clashes, Boko Haram, ISWAP, and so on and so forth, oil, theft, and stuff. So we tried to use the instrumentality of legislation to find solutions.
And that security summit was geared towards ensuring that we look at all the indices that is, of course, affecting federal government from being able to secure the society, life and property, as enshrined in the Constitution. And we did that very, very well. We finished, made our recommendations, and of course, the leadership submitted a report to the executive for them to implement on. That had never happened before.
About 9 bills that emanated from the security summit held by the House of Rep. These are critical bills. These are bills that has to do with security sector reform. About 9 of those bills were being critically looked into by the House of Representatives, and today some of these bills, or most of these bills, are now on their third reading. Awaiting. In fact, that have been passed by House of Rep anyway, being pushed now to the Senate for their own concurrence. To me, they are more critical, because these are bills that is about life. These are bills that is about security. These are bills that is about survival. These are bills that is about corruption, which other assemblies before it has been shying away from. So to me, and it was an initiative of the House of Rep.
The issues of industrial unrest and strikes by professional associations are always recurring in the country. The House, led by Speaker Femi Gbajabiamila, played a critical role in resolving most of these issues.
Then, of course, our children were at home doing nothing. And as a result of ASU strike, this Ninth Assembly again rose up to the challenges led by the Speaker and the leadership, and we were able to resolve some of those things.
The commission delegation will work with the ministry, honorable minister, correct, and for the renegotiation, and they will get back to you on that. Mr. President, sir, are we on the same page? They said 1 week.
By this time next week, we can reconvene all the potpourri of committee members.
I have to commend the Speaker, because every time there's this issue of labor, he intervenes. The truth is, you can't shut down a nation. And so I can tell you for free that I know that the labor union are very happy with him, because he brings out his time, he talks, he goes to the president, he comes out, he just intervening to make sure that people don't shut down economy.
When you see Mr. Speaker, for instance, mediating the first time, the second time on ASU crisis, a crisis that lingered for 8 months, and eventually with his intervention, it was able to call off the strike. When you see him mediating on the railway, on the airway or the airline, people, the sector, or the aviation sector, so to speak, when you see him mediating on the health workers, dispute between the government and the health workers, I think it's just, to me, what ordinarily the parliament should do. So for the first time, we see an assembly or set of legislature that believe our work is not just to talk.
As representatives of the people, lawmakers in the House of Representatives took their responsibilities even beyond the shores of Nigeria. They intervened during a trade dispute between Nigerian traders and Ghanaian authorities, and also intervened when Nigerians were being harassed in China and during xenophobic attacks in South Africa.
And we're almost undiplomatic the way I'm talking, but it's because I am actually upset about what's going on. So, I mean, I'm not sure how you want to address this.
The House went even further during the Ukraine-Russian war to help evacuate some of our citizens, especially Nigerian students studying in the two countries.
What the Speaker, the House of Rep has done in the last 3.5 years is doing the right thing. And that, to me, is commendable.
I will give you an example of Ghana, where Nigerians were being brutalized. And the leadership of Ninth Assembly rose up to that challenge. Speaker, with some leaders and some members, flew to Ghana. Instead of engaging in war or us killing Ghanaians in Nigeria and also retaliating with what they had done to our people in Ghana, I went into that diplomatic channel, met with them, and they apologized. And issues were resolved.
One unique aspect of the Ninth House will be the role played by Speaker Femi Gbajabiamila. He broadened the role of the legislature not only within the country but internationally, and popularized the term parliamentary diplomacy.
We have been able to take, instead of straitjacketing legislators into lawmaking, we've been able to a little bit, push the envelope and expand what legislator has the potential to do in terms of reaching out, getting involved in diplomacy, reaching out, solving trade disputes, looking out for the welfare of Nigerians outside of the country. I remember during COVID, the China ambassador issue. Those are things that I look back and I pray and I hope I'll look back in years to come and be proud of the ninth house, of what we were able to do.
And of course, you've seen several times that the parliament intervened even across Africa.
Another major initiative of Speaker Gbajabiamila was the birth of the Conference of Speakers and Heads of African Parliaments, COSAP, which successfully held its first conference in Abuja on Monday, May 9, 2022. COSAP aims to elevate the role of African legislatures in governance by partnering with other arms in proffering solutions to development challenges.
We must commend the Speaker of the House of Representatives, the Right Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila of Nigeria, and other founding speakers from Ethiopia, from Ghana, from Kenya, from Rwanda, from Senegal and South Africa, for the foresight and vision that gave birth to this conference.
COSAP was an initiative that I set up for African parliament, speakers of African parliaments, to begin to project the African issues that are common to African countries: debt relief, COVID, and the rest of them. We hosted the first meeting here in Abuja, and I'm going to be handing, as I exit my tenure, I'm going to be handing over to Ghana to pilot the affairs of COSAP. Great initiative. We just felt that the African voice needed to be amplified politically. The stage, we needed to take the front stage on issues that affect Africa. And who better to do this beyond the heads of state, the speakers, parliament to parliament, again, legislative diplomacy. And that's what COSAP was all about. LMI, that's the Legislative Mentorship Initiative, which I set up on my 60th birthday. I did that because I thought one of the part of the bane of our society in Nigeria is the failure of leadership to mentor the young ones. And I found that's something I was passionate about, and that's why I set up the LMI on my 60th birthday.
Thank you.
The story of the 9th House of Representatives is incomplete without stating how the members stood to be counted when the world came to a standstill during the COVID-19 pandemic. The House moved to mitigate the impact of the pandemic on Nigeria's economy with the introduction and passage of the Emergency Economic Stimulus Bill 2020, initiated by Speaker Gbajabiamila.
It's a three-legged bill that gives companies a rebate on companies' income tax to the value of 50% of PAE deductions, so long as those companies maintain their PAE rolls as of 1st March 2020 till 31st of December 2020.
It laid the foundation the federal government eventually used to roll out a 2.3 trillion naira economic stimulus package for the nation, among other policies introduced out of collaborations between the legislature and the executive.
We have a legislative agenda in this 9th House of Representatives, which we tagged our contract with Nigerians.
Looking back now, I can say that we did what we should do and what we expected to do, and we didn't want the issue of the rancor between the executive and the parliament, which also helped in the passage of bills, in passage of motions, even in the passage of budget. Of course, you know that it's the 9th Assembly that we reverted to December passage and execution of projects 100%. It has never happened.
Before now, maybe the only thing we used to hear about is ECOWAS Parliament. ECOWAS Parliament. Until the Speaker came on board, and they said, look, the issue of international politics, interstate relation, intergovernmental relation, should not start and stop with the executive. Executive should not enjoy the monopoly of international diplomacy. And that was the message of the Speaker. We have to be part of international engagement. We have to be part of international politics. And that was why when he assumed the leadership of this Commonwealth Parliamentary Union, and he hosted the union, the African wing of it, to me it was a kudos for Nigeria. And we talk of the Commonwealth, you talk of the African, you talk of the African Union's Parliament, and he has dabbled into a lot of international related issues. I think for the first time we now see a Parliament, House of Representatives, that now say, look, we cannot just sit down and discuss treaties. We cannot just sit down and discuss conventions and protocols. We cannot just sit down and wait till Nigerians are attacked in South Africa. We cannot just sit down till the Dubai or the UAE stop us, our airline, from coming to their country. We must be there. We must see what is going on there. We must see what is going on in the various embassies. We must see what is going on in the various high committees. We must be part of the negotiation. We must be part of the talk. We must be part of the engagement. I think this kind of multilateral, involvement, so to speak, by the Honorable Speaker, is to remind the parliamentarians that our work does not stop at national politics.
We had a lot of good legislation that came to fruition because of the harmony that exists between the executive and the legislature.
The House will also be remembered for passing substantial constitutional amendments, some of which grant more authority to state governments. Railway system liberalization and state-owned power generation are just two examples of laws that many people advocated for and that have now become a reality.
So which rule says that it must be...
Despite the unique challenges the 9th House of Representatives faced, such as the worldwide shutdown caused by COVID-19, the Legislative House has accomplished much. As part of these achievements, landmark bills were passed, strategic interventions were made, and good governance was enshrined in the country. As a whole, members of the 9th House will be remembered for being part of a Legislative House that forged a new path for the nation and reminded everyone that indeed, nation building is a joint task, as espoused by Speaker Gbajabiamila in his inaugural speech.